Hi everyone, this is Dustin Haley and thank you for joining me. Today I will be going over some of the new features that IBM has added into 7.6. They've done a really good job of cleaning up the screens and making features easier to find. So to put that in a little bit of perspective, anyone that has ever attended one of my training classes knows that I like to compare Maximo to going to Disney World. When you first log into Maximo, there's a ton to do, and sometimes it can even seem magical. And for anyone that's a Disney World fan, you can think of it as they cleaned up It's a Small World and made it nicer and cleaner looking. And they made it a lot faster and easier for you to go and meet Princess Elsa. So some of the features that I'm going to be going over today include the navigation and 7.6, what edit mode is, enhancements that have been made to the Start Center, enhancements made to the Query-Based Reporting, QBR or ad hoc, some people call it, new applications that have been added, and a couple of other new features. So IBM has been working on cleaning up the screen layout and adding features to provide the users with more information, but they wanted to do that without cluttering up the screen, and I think they've done a good job with that. Some of these new features are the new left-hand navigation that replaces the go-to menu, searching for applications or actions, hover dialogues, changes to the list tab, and making breadcrumbs easier to follow. So when you first log into 7.6, you'll notice that it now has a new skin up here at the top. They replaced that traditional IBM blue with this black color. My opinion, it blends in a little bit better. It looks a little nicer and cleaner. Okay, they've changed the button layout. So used to on the top right, it would say, go to, Start Center, bulletins, things like that. What they've done is gone for what you see more websites going towards, which is icon oriented. So instead of it saying Start Center up here at the top left, you'll see that it's just a little house icon. So it's letting you know, hey, click that and you're going to go home, and your home is the Start Center. And the next icon over is these little 3 stacked bars. This is the traditional go-to menu, and I'll be going over that here in a little bit. Over to the right side of the screen, you have bell, okay, and that would be your bulletins. So anytime you see a number near that little bell, that is your bulletins loading up. The next one over is the reports. So they've replaced that with a little bar meter to let you know that's where your reports are going to be. Next one over, it looks like a little person or a human, if you want to call it that. And if you click on that, that's where you would see like your default information, password information, personal information. The next icon over, it looks like a little arrow going out. It's basically just saying, hey, this one is the sign out button. And the last one over, it looks like a little question mark. That is your help. So if you need a little help with something, you can click on the question mark and it'll help you out. Now, the go-to menu that was located at the top right, basically it's been moved over to the left in this new navigation bar. And you'll see that right here, it has a list of some of the go-tos, and if I was actually in there, I could scroll down and see the other applications I have access to. What they've also done is they put your queries over here right underneath your go-to applications, and then just below that you'll see common actions and more actions, and this would have been everything that you would have seen in your Start Center. So they've moved all that to help decrease the clutter everywhere, and they put it off to the left. It looks cleaner, it looks nicer. I'm liking it a lot. And it helps if you're not using anywhere or every place on a tablet, if you're just going into the main application. My opinion is it's definitely helped me get to applications faster, find my queries, and use these select actions. Now, if you're not quite sure which application you're trying to go to is where it's located at, they've added in a new find feature that'll help you find the specific application, query, or even any actions in the select action menu. So, you know, you just started your new job, your boss comes up and he's like, hey, I need you to go into work order tracking. You're like, okay, but I didn't write down on my notes where that actually was. That's okay, because up here at the top in this find navigations setting, this field, you can type in work and you'll see that it came up with every single application that says work in it, any query that has work in it, and also any actions that have work in it. And I love this feature, and the reason because of that is I have had client queries and work order tracking, and it becomes so cumbersome to try and find your query up there at the top left that, I mean, you almost don't even want to use it. So with this feature now, though, depending on what you're naming it, you can quickly find those queries, and you don't have to worry about them so much stacking up like that. And the same thing goes with the select action menus. Anyone that's been in work order tracking, if you have full access to it, you hit select action, and there's like 20, 30 different things you can choose from. These common actions and more actions will help make things easier to find. Okay, now the next piece is up at the top where your right where your go-to applications are. You're going to have this My Recent Applications, and this is another cool feature because it's going to show you the last 8 applications you have been to. So if you're someone that typically only goes to like 4 or 5 specific applications, but you have access to more than that, this will help get you there a little quicker. You can just go up to your My Recent Applications, and then it shows you all of them that you've recently been to. Now, as I said, it shows you your last 8, but your system administrator can increase this to be more or less, okay? So you do have an option to increase or decrease that if you need to. In the previous instances, as I talked about earlier, you had go to at the top right, but the navigation menu on the left has kind of overtaken that. But if you consider yourself more of a traditionalist and you don't really like the navigation menu, that's fine because you can still use these 3 stacked bars up here at the top left. You click that and it brings down your go-to menu. You also have your Start Center and the My Recent Applications piece. Okay, so like I said, if you're more of a traditionalist, you're not really digging the new navigation menu, that's fine. You can still use the old way. Now, you also can hide that navigation menu if you want. If you're not enjoying it for whatever reason, there is a little black arrow right here in the center of the navigation menu. You click that and it will smash it over there to the left, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. I like this feature too because whenever you're going into the applications, if you want more screen space, I'll click that and it actually opens up the screen. And you guys will see that in a demo a little bit later on. And then if you want to hide permanently or display that too, up at the top right where you click on your little person and go to default information, and then when that box appears, you'll have this little side navigation menu at the bottom. And what this will allow you to do is display this every time you log in, or you can say you want to hide it when you log in because you want to use that go-to menu. And you also have the option to use settings from the security group. So if your system administrator sets something specific for you, you can just use that setting that they put in the security group. Now, if they set it to hide and you say you want it to display, yours choice up there to display will override the setting from the security group. which I kind of like because it makes me feel like I got just a little bit more power over the system administrator. So makes me giggle a little bit. Now, the next piece of this is the list tab changes. Okay, they've made it a lot cleaner looking when you log in. So up here at the top, instead of seeing every single tab that Maximo has available, you're just only going to see the list tab. Okay, and you can search off of that like you traditionally do. But this is nice because typically when I'm training, I've noticed that users can get confused about where they're at if this is the first time that they've ever come inside here. So when you take away all those tabs, it seems like it is making it a lot easier for users to understand that, hey, this is the list tab, this isn't actually a record that I'm trying to work on. And then below that, you have the actual application, what it's going to look like. So this is an example of a work order, and you'll see that all the tabs, the traditional tabs, they are here. And if I need to go back to the list, I can just click on List View, and then it'll return me back to my list tab up here at the top. So like I said, that's a pretty nice little change, especially for new users, and it makes it look a bit cleaner. Now, some of the cosmetic changes that have happened inside of Maximo, okay, they have started stacking the wordings on top of the field. So instead of it saying work order and then it showed the actual work order number to the right of it, they have stacked the description on top of the field. The reason for this is it makes it so that you're not taking up so much of the real estate inside the application. So I can spell out work order and I can put my field here and I don't have to worry about it getting further and further off to the right, because sometimes, you know, if you make a custom field, it can stretch it out if they put too long of description. So I like that. In this middle area right here, I box this in so that you can see that what they're doing is kind of smashing it all over to the left to make it a cleaner look. Because it used to be you would have a lot of real estate here in the center. I used to get that question a lot about trying to get fields moved over to the left so that people don't always have to scroll over to the right of the screen if there's too many fields. So that's nice. They moved it all over to the left. It automatically gets pushed over to the left. So it helps avoid having to scroll over to the right every time. Now down here on the bottom, what they've done with the section names are they've taken off the box, they changed the font, and they made it, and they bolded the naming, which is nice because, again, cleaner look, makes it easy to recognize what section that is, and, you know, obviously it's not a field, it is a section name. Now, this next feature is called Typeahead inside Maximo, and it's a really cool feature. It was actually available in 7.5 when it first came out, but most people didn't know about it or they never even heard about it. So I just thought I'd add this one in here just because it's such a cool feature. Whenever you go into a field, if you start typing something in, it'll actually show you what matches with whatever you're typing in, kind of like a smart search. So in this example, I have an asset and I typed in the letter F, and it showed me in my select value I have facilities, fleet, ferrous, and non-ferrous. So I could click on one of those records, one of those entries, those values, and it'll automatically put it up there for me instead of having to click on the select value. You can also hit backspace whenever you're in one of those fields, and it will automatically show everything from that list, and you can scroll through that. This feature is tied to fields that have domains and can be set up by the system administrator for any field that does have a domain for it. The next feature is edit mode, and this one is a really, really good one if you've ever gotten the refetch and try again error, which is just does not make your day at all when you see that. It's like the worst error ever sometimes. Maybe it's a little exaggerating, but I hate it when I get that. So what this does is when you have edit mode turned on, it is going to make all your fields inside the work order application read-only. And you cannot edit anything until you come up to the top left and you hit that little button that has a little piece of paper and pencil tied to it. And when you hit that, it opens up all the fields so that you can edit the record. Now what this does is while you're editing this record, it locks it out and prevents anyone else from trying to make a change to it in the work order tracking application. So what used to happen is you'd have two people, one person comes in first, gets inside that record, a little bit later on another person comes in there and they're both editing the same record. Whoever saved first was the big winner, and they had all their work saved. The other person got a refetch and try again error. So IBM has added in this edit mode to help prevent that from occurring all the time. One caveat to this, as cool as it is, if you are inside here, you stick on edit mode, and another person is in quick reporting, they will still be able to access this record and make changes. So while it is cool, it is application-based. Now, if a person is editing the record, when someone else goes in there, they will see this little piece of paper and pencil right by the description name. And if you hover over it, you'll see what person is editing that record. And it kind of gives you a head up that, you know, hey, someone's already editing this record. I either need to talk to this person or wait till they finish it. Now, if you are editing a record and you want to get out of it, the best thing to do is hit that edit record button again at the top left, because this will unlock the record and allow someone else to use it. You can sign out or just completely X out of Maximo, but there is a little bit of delay between when you actually sign out or exit out and the system letting go of the record. So best practice is to make sure that you hit the edit mode button again to allow other people in that record. Another very cool feature that IBM has added is hover dialogues. And the way hover dialogues works is that it's going to allow you to see more information about a specific field without having to always have it up there. So you'll see on here on the asset there's this little eye right next to it. Whenever I go up there and I hover over the eye, it will show me asset details. So I can see the asset, I can see the description, the manufacturer, serial number, the tag, status, the location, type. I can see all those different fields without actually having to go over to the asset application or having to add every single one of those fields on there, which really clutters up the screen. So this is a feature that I really like simply because it helps you find these fields and locate them faster without having to actually go to the asset application or just taking up screen space. Now the next piece that I'm going to talk about is the breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs, in case you guys aren't familiar with what that is, you know, if you go to like asset location, say, and you hit this little detail menu, you can go to and you can go to that application. So for rotating item, it'd be like go to item master. And that would take you to the item master application or asset or wherever you're going. And the way you knew that you went to another application is in like the tiniest, smallest font that was ever invented, they put it on the bottom left. So you needed basically a magnifying glass to read it. So they've done away with that, and they have put it up here at the top left, your breadcrumbs. And it is so much better, okay? It's a lot cleaner and it's easier to read and understand that you actually came from a different application. You basically have these pages that are layered. So you can see that I started off in work order tracking. I went to assets, and then I went to locations. And if I click on assets or work order tracking, it'll take me back to that specific application. Now, at the top right, you'll still have return and return with value, so you can use that to go back. But this is one of my new favorite features simply because it's a lot cleaner and it's easier to find. When I'm training people, they just automatically understand that, hey, I went to a different application. I'm not having to explain that over and over again. So now we're going to go over some of the changes that have been made to the Start Center result sets. Your edit buttons are now automatically hidden. They have narrowed the list of available queries by having you first select the application. And the result set functionality has been expanded to let you select from multiple objects. So up here, you're going to see a picture of two blank result sets that I have up here. Now, when you first look at a result set, it's going to look like this top one. It's going to be completely blank. And what that does is it takes extra clutter off of the screen that doesn't need to be there. But on this second one down here, what's happened is I've actually rolled over this area where this top right area is, and it shows me the reload, the edit, minimize, and the delete icons. So I can click on one of those and it'll take me there. But as soon as I roll off of it, it'll go back to being blank space. So it's a little cleaner. The next piece, which is one of my favorite pieces, is how they have fixed and enhanced the result sets. So at the top left, you see I have application and query up here highlighted or boxed in. And what you're going to do now whenever you're first creating a result set is you are going to actually pick the application. So in this case, I picked work order tracking, low track. And what that'll do is it'll narrow down the list of queries that you can pick. So it used to be whenever you would come inside here, you would see every single query from every single application. And that's fine if you don't have a lot of queries, but if you're a bigger company or if you're a company that likes to actually save queries for later use, it became a little bit of a headache trying to find your specific query. So what this allows you to do is just narrow it down to a specific application, and it makes it a lot easier to find that specific query. So I really like that feature. The next piece is one of the most requested features that I've ever gotten, which was to expand the ability for result sets so that you can choose from more than just one object. You can choose attributes from other objects. People have been asking this since basically the Start Centers came out. I've been getting this question. And the way it works now is you'll see up here where my object list is, I have work order details, but underneath it, I also have location, status, job plan, and service level agreements. So I can choose fields from those objects to bring over. And you can see down on the bottom where my selected fields are, I already have asset description on there. Before, all I could do was add on asset. I couldn't actually add on an asset description or the location description. I couldn't add on the asset manufacturer if I wanted to, or the asset type. That just was not available. And now they've added that in there, and that is definitely one of the biggest buzzes that I've heard about. People get really excited about that one, and that's personally one of my favorite ones, simply because I'm able to put on information that's more important to me on it. Okay. Now, the next piece is the enhancements to QBRs, the query-based reporting or ad hoc. Okay. And this one, even more so than result sets, was requested. Okay, what people were asking for is to be able to have more functionality than just put a field on the screen. So now you're actually able to do that. You are able to add on subtotals, calculations, average it out, min or max it, and you can preview the report before having to save and close it out, which is a really good one. So what they've done here is they've altered the layout a bit slightly. So you can see on my screen here, this looks just slightly different than what it used to look like. You now have this content tab, which is actually just your select tab. And if you guys don't remember, the select tab was where you would actually pick all the different fields that you want on the screen or on the report. They just renamed it to content. They have added in two new tabs here called calculate and summarize, and those are the two we're going to go over here in just a second. Okay, one allows you to calculate, the other allows you to summarize. You still have the format tab, which still allows you to sort and group. That hasn't been changed. But one of the funny things is they've taken away the submit tab, which I absolutely love, because you used to have the submit tab and you had a button that said submit. So I'd be training someone and I would say, okay, go to the submit tab, and sure enough, 9 times out of 10 they would actually hit the submit button, and then we'd have to start over on the report. So I actually really like that they took that away. Right here, this apply application and query field checkbox, that used to be where the content tab was, or the select tab. And basically all it is, it's doing the exact same thing. It's just saying if you're on a specific record or you have records on your list tab, use that. You still have your title, and instead of it saying public, it now says share, which to me makes a little bit more sense to users and new users, that hey, you're actually sharing this with people. And down on the bottom you have cancel to obviously cancel, and instead of submit, it now says run and save the report, and it does exactly that. It will run and then save your report for you. And then on the bottom right you have the preview report, which I really like, because this is going to allow you to look at the report before you actually submit and save it. It used to be that you would go inside here, you'd save your report, and then, I forgot to put location, or I forgot to put work type. And you basically almost have to start all over, or you wanted to change the format or something like that. Now this allows you to preview the report, make sure it's exactly how you want it to look, and then you can run and save that report. The next tab over is the Calculate tab, and this one is really, really cool because it's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to calculate something up. So in the example that I have here, in my expression, I want my year-to-date costs minus my budgeted costs. So what that's going to do is for each asset, it is going to show me if I'm actually going over what my budgeted is versus my year-to-date cost. So inside here, this is my expression. I type that in there. I can hit test expression just to make sure it's right. And up here where the available fields are, if you're not quite sure what the field name should be, you can always search up here to find out what it is. I've named it YTD minus budget, and I've set up my data type to be amount. Now, the next step after this would be you would hit add expression, and it would show up down here. And then once you run the report, you'll then see your expression on there. So if you do add this on here, make sure you add an expression. It allows you to add multiple expressions, and make sure you put in a name that makes sense, because this is actually going to be the column name. So I'm going to go to this next slide here, and you can see all the way over to the right, that is my calculation. I put in my year-to-date minus the budget, and those are the numbers that I got for them. So you can see it ends up being a column over there on the right. And like I said, you can add more than just one. You don't have to just leave it as only one. You can also use the Summarize tab and the Calculate tab at the same time if you want, or separately. So for this one, what you can do is you can do the total, you can do the count, the average. a minimum, a maximum, a medium, or a mode. Bunch of fun math terms that we all learned in high school and elementary maybe. And over here on the available fields, basically what you're doing is you're saying what field do you want and what do you want it to do. So you can see on the bottom here, I made this work order report, and I picked labor cost and labor hours. I hit labor hours, it'll appear here, and then I can say I want the total. So I want the total number of labor costs and the total number of hours for all the work orders that I'm running my report on. So this is a really cool feature that people have asked for a long time. The only way you were going to be able to do something like this before was if you were going to be working in BERT or crystal reporting or something you got in the background, or Cognos. So they've definitely given people more power inside the reporting, which is a great thing. Okay, and here is an example of that report that I just ran. So I could see the total cost of all my labor that I had on these work orders and the total amount of hours that people actually worked on here. So again, I really like this because it saves you from having to export it out into Excel and doing the calculations there, or having to get a custom-made report. So some of the new applications they've added, they have 3. You have KPI Viewer, which is going to allow you to view KPIs outside of the Start Center. And you will be able to use a crew and crew type application to add more information to crews. So here is what the KPI Viewer application looks like at your List tab. This is a list of all the different KPIs that I had in the system, and I really like this one because what it's going to allow me to do is list all my KPIs in here. I can click on them, view that specific KPI, and then go on about my day if I need to. Previously, all you could do with a KPI is have it added onto the Start Center. And that's not such a bad thing unless you have like 5 or 10 KPIs that you're trying to monitor. You know, sometimes it can actually take quite a while for all those KPIs to load up. And, you know, it starts cluttering up the screen after a while. So they've made this KPI Viewer application to make it easier to look at them. So inside here, when I go into the KPI application, I'll see my KPI name, description, and then inside here is a long description. And then right below it in this current section is the actual KPI that I would see in the Start Center. I can see the little rev meter or whatever you want to call it, your target, caution, alert, at, all that pertinent information that you need. And the next tab over is your historical trends. And this one is really nice because I'm able to see trends that have happened to this KPI. I can see it over a long term. I can put in a date range, and then I can actually even compare it with other KPIs if I need to. And on this next tab, you'll actually see an example of that graph. So this one was, I believe, based off of like just maybe about a month. Yeah, just under, right at a month. And it just kind of showed me the trends of how this specific KPI was going. So that's really nice. The next application is the crew types. And the crew types, you can think of it as basically a template for your crew application. Previously, a crew was nothing more than just a value that was added in through domains. There wasn't anything really associated or connected with it. But IBM has made these 2 new applications so that you can add more information there. So for your crew type, like I said, it's basically a template. You can give it your name, description, a rate, the required crafts, qualifications, or tools. And all this information will carry over for you every time to the crews application so that you don't have to try and re-enter in all that information every time. And here's an example of the actual crew application. You'll see inside here, there's my crew type, and it'll automatically load up all that other information. I can add in my crafts, labor information, tool assignments, and different things like that. So it gives you a lot more functionality related to crews than you ever had before. Now, we're down to the last bit of this, which is the other new functions or features that were added inside Maximo, which is being able to change the status of a work order to waiting schedule. And the work log is now available in your PR, PO, quick reporting, KPI viewer. So, work order status. Now I can set it to be waiting to be scheduled. Now I know you're probably thinking, hey Dustin, that's not right. I was always able to do waiting to be scheduled. And you're halfway right. You were able to do that if you created a work order from the PM application. But you couldn't actually change the status of a work order to be waiting to be scheduled unless you had a system admin tweak it a little bit. Now, straight out of the box, you're able to change a work order to be waiting to be scheduled, and it doesn't have to be associated with a PM. And the last piece of this is the log tab. If you use the log tab, which I always like, it will record information. You can write almost like a little diary about that specific record you're working on. It used to only be in work order tracking, but they have now added into the PR application, the PO application, the quick reporting application, and even the new KPI Viewer application. So all of those now include a log tab for you to record information into it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do real quick is just a little bit of demo, and then we're going to go to questions. I just kind of want you guys to be able to see it in real live action. All right, you know what? My computer isn't always the greatest, and right now it is showing an example of that. So unless it pops up here in just a second, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the questions, and then in the background I'm going to scold my computer for you guys since it's not working for us. All right, so I just want to say thank you first, guys, for joining me today to learn about some of the new 7.6 features. And now what I'm going to do is turn it over to Betsy to get some of these questions. Take it away, Betsy.
Thank you, Dustin. Gotta love technology. We did have several questions come through while you were presenting, so I'll just kind of run down the list here, and we'll try to get all your questions answered during the remaining time allotted. If we do not get to your question, we will respond to you via email, so don't worry if your question doesn't get answered here online. So the first question is, does Maximo 7.6 track history of asset status? Did you know that?
Not out of the box. Let me see if I can actually get the demo up there so I can show you what it actually looks like. So there we go. Oh, so it did come up. It actually came up in the background. All right, so here is Maximo 7.6. So I'm going to go over the asset applications and show you guys what you can get out of it. So what you can do is you can see the move history, which will tell you actually the first time that it was ever created. And that is about as much history as you're going to get. It doesn't have, and I'm not aware of being able to add in a view history. The closest thing I can think of to being able to do that is to actually add in maybe like an edit mode or something like that, or not an edit mode, but an audit mode so that it will track that. But outside of that, you don't actually have a standard status tracking like you do with the work order application.
All right. Next question. Does the Typeahead work in the classification? Does the Typeahead work in the classification field?
That's a great question. I actually haven't tested that one out myself. So we're going to write that one down, and I'm going to get that tested out, and we'll get back to you guys on that. I know for a fact it will work on anything that has a domain, and it does work on work type, so there is a chance it could work on classifications, but I haven't tested it out, and I'll find out before I give you guys an answer.
Okay, great. Do you know if the edit record features can be set to timeout automatically?
What will happen with it, it doesn't have a setting that says after 30 minutes take off edit mode. It's either going to get out of edit mode because the user clicked on edit mode, or someone went up and exited out, or they signed out of the system, and then just once the system refreshes in the background, it'll eventually kick back that record to open up. But no, there isn't by default a timer for edit mode.
All right. In the hover dialog boxes, can you add pictures of the asset, or is it limited to just text?
I believe it is only limited to text, but that's a great question. That's another one that I haven't tested out, so we will write that one down. I'll test it out on my side to see if I can add a picture, and then I'll let you guys know.
Okay. Is there still a swap asset function?
Yeah, the swap assets is still there. If you guys can see my screen, it's right there on the left. So that's still there along with move and modify.
Okay. Is log tab available on assets?
No, it is not. It is not available out of box. The only way you could get it is if your system administrator basically added it in there, kind of copying it from one of the other applications.
All right. And will they be able to send email from the PO log?
Yes, I believe so. Let me confirm that. I haven't tested that one out. Yes. Okay. Yeah, there's still a work log and a communication log. So the communication, just like before, you can do a create communication to send emails to and from.
Okay. With the related object relationships and result sets, are those already built in with 7.6, or do you still have to add each relationship first?
Out of box, there is a set or there is a built objects for you to go in there. But I know you can add more objects than what you guys saw on there. The only thing is you want to make sure that you don't have any one-to-many relationships, you know, like the lines on like a PO or PR. You know, it's not going to work correctly if you start trying to do that stuff. It's best to just to do a one-to-one relationship with it. But they do have some built out of box.
All right, so does or can a 7.6 track order printing so you would know the order has been printed and doesn't get completed twice? So if you're printing a work order.
Okay. No, it doesn't have anything to say, hey, I printed this record. Usually what I tell people is they probably want to change the status to a different status to signify that, hey, you have printed it. But there's definitely no out-of-box functionality that says that you have already printed a report.
Would you know if you can view the history on company's application to see when a company was created?
Let's test that one out. No, it looks like there actually isn't anything to say when this was created. The best thing you could do is actually add in a date field that would show you that. Other way would be doing audits on the companies to see when they have been created. I would probably go with maybe just adding a date field that says when a company gets created rather than doing the audit, since that's the only function it would be going for.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. And if we don't answer a question on here, we'll be sure to reach out to you via email with your answer to your questions. I have a list of them all. Let me look here too. So was WorkLog added to the invoices application too?
No, it was not. To the PR, PO, quick reporting KPI, it can be added if your system administrator wants to add in a specific log for it, but out of box, there's not a log for it.
Would you know all the applications that now have the log feature added?
Yeah, so you have the PR, the PO, the quick reporting application, the KPI Viewer, and the work order tracking. All of those applications have the ability to create work logs.
Okay. I think that is about it. There was a question about HSE still an add-on module for 7.6 and a separate license needed. You still need a license for HSE. It is still an add-on. It's not included for out-of-the-box core. So for that user, fortunately, you still have to buy that license. And I think that's about all for right now. I think we'll wrap up this webinar. Again, we'll reach out to you if you have more questions. If you do, feel free to email me directly with my contact information was at the last PowerPoint slide. I'll have Dustin pull that up again so you can see that. So then there's my contact information. If you have any more questions related to 7.6, feel free to contact myself and I will be sure to answer your question directly or find out the answer for you. And again, thanks to Dustin for doing a great demonstration and presentation on the new features of 7.6. And we will be sending out a link to this webinar for your convenience, so you will have a recording of this. Again, thank you all for taking time out of your day for attending the webinar, and we will reach out to you soon. Thanks again. Have a good day, everyone.